Spiritual men, explicit. Spiritual men, explicit. Now, yeah, this is a very deep one, but just getting more in depth about spiritual men, man, I mean, this stuff is very deep. Because what you gotta understand is that as I'm getting into this stuff by the Spirit, I mean, man, spiritual men are just not valued, really, besides by the kingdom of heaven and God's chosen people and everybody who God truly has interest in. But anybody outside of that, no, they're not. Spiritual men are not valued by really anybody, is what I'm trying to tell you. Because see, the thing is about spiritual men and all the stuff, like the surface and all the stuff on the surface, like it looks like spiritual men are crazy, weird, and all this crazy stuff. But see, the thing is, as I'm being led by the Spirit, like, you know, once again, like spiritual men are like very valuable to God overall because, you know, they carry a lot of authority in the Spirit, and overall, like spiritual men are humble. They truly do pray sincerely and have a relationship with God. And yeah, I mean, it's not a light matter because spiritual men see things that other people don't see, and they hear things that other people don't hear. And yeah, I mean, overall, this stuff is just spiritual. That's what you gotta understand about spiritual men. And I'm talking about spiritual men and God and the real Jesus, nothing outside of that. All that other stuff, you know, as he's leading me to say too, will perish. Anything outside of the God of Israel and the real Jesus, it will perish. So I'll just leave it at that. You know, all that other stuff is just has nothing to do with what I'm telling you and what I'm getting into. But anyhow, yeah, spiritual men in the real God and the real Jesus. Somehow, some way, some reason, he wants me to emphasize it this way. Because I guess a lot of people are just a part of this other stuff. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to perish. It's going to perish in hell. All that other stuff outside of him, outside of the real Jesus, outside of God, yeah, all that stuff that you people are a part of, it's going to perish. Some reason, you know, he's leading me to say this stuff. But anyhow, yeah, spiritual men, yeah, they just go through a lot. That's what I'm trying to emphasize. And, you know, it's a lot of attacks from the enemy and a lot of stuff just on spiritual men's back. Spiritually, though, that's what you got to understand. The enemy's after spiritual men like never before. Spiritual men are just overlooked. And a lot of people just like, they just don't value spiritual men. They take spiritual men for granted. You know, people just think it's like some type of surface joke in a way too. That's what you gotta understand. But see, overall, they realize that spiritual men in the very, very end of things, if I'm being real, they realize spiritual men who are truly the genuine spiritual men who are in God and Jesus. That's it though. Nobody else. We're just overall though, they were telling the truth, and also they were really spiritual, and they really had a lot of stuff going with the real God of Israel. They really had encounters and all this deep stuff. And see, I'm truly being led by the Spirit, because that's what you gotta understand about this stuff. This ain't about me. That's what you gotta understand. But I'm just a part of God's kingdom. So it's truly not about me. That's what you gotta understand with this stuff, you know. But anyhow, speaking of that too, yeah, spiritual men, they have a lot of deep encounters with God and the devil, and that's what you gotta understand. But this ain't for everybody, because these people who profess to be spiritual and they're really not. I mean, you do have to have discernment for the stuff. You do, yeah, you know, and believe not every spirit, but try the spirit rather they be of God, because not everybody is of God. You know, who's saying they're spiritual and all this stuff. That's what I'm trying to say. And all that other stuff that's outside of the God of Israel and outside of Jesus, yeah, it's going to perish. The people, they will be perishing. These beings, these fallen beings will be perishing. All the stuff outside of God's kingdom will be perishing. That's what you got to understand. But anyhow, too, yeah, I mean, spiritual men just have deep encounters, really, with spiritual matters, is what I'm saying. Some of these encounters, you know, could be just pretty, like, intense is what I'm saying, because spiritual men truly have these encounters, is what you gotta understand. And these encounters are no joke in a way too. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Every encounter is different in a way. Some of them are more intense than others, but overall the encounters are just very real. And see, another thing about spiritual men too is like, a lot of times too, the devil will try to get you to second guess what you're encountering with God and what you're encountering with him too. And this guy, yeah, see, you gotta understand that Satan is the father of lies, and he is gonna lie to you and make you think too that you didn't even encounter stuff when you did. That's the thing about, being spiritual with God and the God of Israel and through Jesus, and overall just spiritual men, just being a spiritual man, I should say too, in God. In the God of Israel is what I'm referring to. Now, nobody outside of him is what I'm telling you. And yeah, I mean, overall though, yeah, I mean, the devil is going to lie. He tells many more lies to spiritual men too. See, that's the thing too, as I'm being led by the Spirit. The devil, like, he does lie. He has lied to all beings, all beings, more or less. But see, I keep telling you, people that he's not worried about everybody. That's what you gotta understand. Satan is not. He is not, man. You people, you're part of that religious shit. Yeah, that religious shit, it's gonna get you in trouble with the real God of Israel. So you better repent, but majority of you won't be doing all that, because I keep telling you, this stuff is designed by God the Father and all this stuff. But anyhow, yeah, I mean, Satan is not after everybody and all this stuff. And see, spiritual men, like, he is trying to take spirituality from us, and yeah, I do play a role in this. He's trying to take spirituality away from spiritual men, though. That's what I'm saying overall. And yeah, I do play a role in this stuff, humbly speaking. But yeah, I mean, overall, Satan is just after spiritual men like never before. Fallen angels are after spiritual men like never before. And Satan's kingdom overall is just after. And he's using beings and certain individuals to come up against, spiritual men. And the stuff is not a game, because spiritual men have to do a lot of stuff that other people will not do. That's what you gotta understand about spiritual men. And this is on so many levels and so many realms. And what you gotta understand is that the spiritual stuff is not a game. But see, overall, it's just not for everybody either. That's what you gotta understand about this stuff. And yeah, spiritual men just go through a lot. They go through the most attacks, the most criticism, the most persecution, the most second guessing, the most pain too, as I'm being led by the Spirit. And yeah, I'm going to be very real. The stuff is not a game. And see, Satan tries to capitalize on that pain too. But see, us spiritual men, like, I don't know, man. We just see the bigger picture with this stuff. That's what you got to understand. But no, spiritual men are not perfect or nothing like that. They're just very close to God. That's what you got to understand. And God treasures spiritual men. I'm being very real. But you see, you other beings who are outside of that, and you people and beings who come up against that stuff, I mean, man, you're just coming up against God's kingdom overall, and God is going to seriously strike you. I'm just being very real, because, see, I fear him. And that's another thing about spiritual men who are genuine and genuinely in God's kingdom. That's all I'm trying to say. We truly fear him. That's what you got to understand. Spiritual men and these other people who are part of this other stuff, no, they don't. And they're about to be in hell and the lake of fire and all these other dark realms with the enemy. He is going to seriously torment these souls and these people. And, you certain people hearing this as well, yeah, you're going to be a part of the enemy. I'm being very real, But with all that being said, yeah, spiritual men, stuff's not a game.